Wrestling with Wrestling's past and present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
See, JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Definitely not his, the barn burner that we've cast the entire rally thing was, but, we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Hager kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match for that to be.
It is in the mail, my good sir. Oh, it wasn't. Paul.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely.
And then you can listen to us too. We're off to a rough start.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's past and present. I'm Tim Kirk.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today we're talking about Fastlane 2016, which is hard to believe is 5 years ago. And a little bit later on in the show, we're going to give you our predictions for Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, we're going to the throwback to our original format. I know sometimes we don't do the original format, but I think that's what kind of makes it special when we can. And I think we internally talked about doing maybe some more specials for the bigger pay-per-views, so be on the lookout for that. We'll still give you our predictions for some of the other pay-per-views. Hopefully we can do a past and present type thing. But I love this format because it's what we started the show on.
No, it's cool. Starting from just being a listener, listening to my two friends talk about it, listen to the original format of, talking about a past W pay-per-view and then talking about AEW Revolution, for example, is an episode that I re-listened to just to kind of make sure I understood the format. I think it's fun. I think it was cool. We did it for Royal Rumble with a special, and it'll be cool to fit into this one. And we can talk about some Fastlane and Elimination Chamber, so we can literally talk about the past and present.
Absolutely. So we'll start with Fastlane 2016. There's 8 matches on the card, including one pre-show match, which was a 2 out of 3 falls match for the U.S. title between Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio. Kalisto going to get the win 2-1 here in about 15 minutes. Obviously, we didn't see this one, but I would actually think this probably was a pretty good match as far as a pre-show match goes.
They showed the highlights in between, and Del Rio actually got disqualified in the first fall on purpose. Hit him with a chair, tried to beat him up, and then he won the second fall, and then he actually got surprised and pretty much rolled up on the third fall by Kalisto, and that's how they ended up getting the 3 falls.
That's such an annoying shtick. Vince loves to do that. He did that on Raw for a few years in a row, where they would do these 2 out of 3 falls matches for no reason. They would just throw them together. And the first fall was always a disqualification. So it's like, what's the point of adding this stipulation if you're just going to make it a 1-fall match, essentially? Or it doesn't make sense, because that's what they're saying. Like, there's no point, because you automatically know it's either going to the 3rd fall or it's over. I actually went back on the pre-show to watch this because I didn't know if you guys were. It was not a good match. It was terrible. Alberto Del Rio looks sloppy, but Kalisto looks solid in the match.
And then, speaking of Kalisto, I think he's in the best shape of his life right now from what we've seen. I'm waiting to see what they do with him. They keep teasing they're going to do something, and they never do. So I'm hoping that they do something with him, because definitely I think underrated for not just being a luchador, but being one of those guys that could probably wrestle in the mid-card level and be believable. He was, the United States champion. So clearly they had some faith in him. I don't know what they're waiting on to get him back. They put him in the Lucha House Party. He's been out of that for what feels like forever now. We just haven't seen him on TV. We'll see him here and there. But
yeah, I'll get the 24/7 title, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, and then they teased him having a beef with Rey Mysterio through Twitter and stuff, and nothing ever came of that either. So I don't know what, it's like we were talking about earlier before we went on the air. It's like Bo Dallas, that poor guy's been at catering every week, not doing anything. But, that's the thing. At least these guys are showing up, even though they're getting paid, because they could just stay home and collect a check. At least they're trying to go and be put on TV, and they keep getting the creative has nothing for you, brother, from Vince. So,
and that's because, not to go on a rant or anything, but 2 things that I've always had a problem with is, one, they hire writers who have no wrestling experience. And I was curious. I looked it up on LinkedIn. It literally says, if you have wrestling experience or a wrestling fan, please do not apply. So they literally discourage having writers or creative, essentially, to not have wrestling experience, because he wants the more soap opera, the more entertainment style writing, which is fine. But then the problem is Vince also changes his mind more than the toddler does. So there could be a good show going, like, this card, for example, I read some, information, they changed it. So you could be at the show. These poor wrestlers are like, all right, in 5 minutes, wait, I'm beating Alberto Del Rio. Okay, that makes no sense because Vince didn't like the script or somebody didn't like the guy. Like Aleister Black is sitting at home because Vince doesn't think he's going to be over. He's literally sitting at home. So why not release them and let these guys work? Because that's what these wrestlers want. These guys and girls, they want to work. And I don't blame them. Let them work. There's so many opportunities for them. Let them have opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. We kick off the actual show with a tag team match between Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, getting a win over Team Bad, which was Naomi and Tamina, in just under 10 minutes. This was the start of the women's evolution where they came out and there was like these multiple free team factions. You had Team Bad, Team PCB, the Submission Sorority, which I got in trouble for.
You had Team Bella.
Yeah, Team Bella. So this was the very start of it. They're still classified as divas at this point. We'll talk about a Divas Championship match later on in the show. But I thought this was a solid match. I'm not sure if I would have opened the show with this one. I don't know if it was enough to get the crowd really invested in the show. But I thought it was a solid match. And obviously, 3 of these competitors went on to have really successful, championship careers. Tamina's still in the company, but she never really took off, But obviously, Becky and Sasha and Naomi have all had championship runs.
I mean, Naomi's kind of in the same boat as Tamina, though, too, at some points where like they don't know what to do with her. They push her a little bit, and then she kind of goes away, whether it's injury, whether it's they don't. We don't have anything for you, brother, sister, whatever. But yeah, no, it wasn't a terrible match, but it just goes to show you how far women's wrestling has come just in 5 years, because Becky and Sasha, were in the forefront of that, starting that, and like Tim said, this was the very beginning of it, and you've seen where the matches have come since then. Not that this was a bad match; it was actually a relatively good match, but yeah, it was weird to start the pay-per-view with this match. I don't understand. I mean, I guess they thought that both Becky and Sasha were kind of crowd favorites, so maybe they thought that would wake the crowd up, but the crowd wasn't. They were into the entrances, and that was pretty much about it. I mean, the match itself wasn't terrible. It might have been maybe a pinch too long, but it wasn't a terrible match though.
I know they finally had time, that was the biggest turning point, like you guys have both said, for the women's revolution, is they weren't getting 10-second matches, so they were finally getting time. And I think this is when they were kind of figuring out what their timing was for their performers, because like you said, it was a tad too long, but it didn't drag out. It was a good match because there was 4 good competitors. I also like Tamina. I think it's a shame they're not using her to her strengths, especially giving her lineage too, another second generation star. Which Vince loves, so I don't understand why she's not being pushed. But it was a good match, and it definitely went to show, like you guys have both said, where it came from 5 years. And I actually like this Becky Lynch character a little bit better than the man, because I feel like this was more her. This was probably more her amplified, and I thought she was more fun in the match. And you can tell this is pre-Glow Naomi, which was really cool to also see. But yeah, it was a good match, and definitely watching it the first time, I really enjoyed it because I hadn't seen it before.
Next up is a singles match for the Intercontinental Championship. You have Kevin Owens, the champion, getting a win over Dolph Ziggler in about 15 minutes. This would be the match that I would have picked to start the show. I thought it was a really good match, and I thought this would have got the crowd going a little bit better than the tag team match did. But again, I'm a Kevin Owens mark, so I don't know if he ever has a bad match, in my opinion.
You ruined it, Tim, because I was going to start off with that, coming from the KO mark.
Yeah. But again, I thought it was a really solid match. I like heel Kevin Owens, as well. I mean, he pulls off both really well. But like I said, the only thing bad about this match I would say is I wish it started off the show.
Yeah, I think to speak on Kevin Owens, I think when he's a good guy, he's still like that prickish good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's believable in both characters because he still does some heel things, but he does them to heels, so people love it. So it's kind of like that Stone Cold type-esque character where Stone Cold was a bad guy, but the fans were like, I love this guy. He's kicking the shit out of his boss. Like, I love it. This is great. So yeah, this match easily, and I agree with Tim, could have started the show. Ziggler, easily one of the more underrated guys in the company for the last 10, 12, 15 years, how long he's been there. Been there for what seems like forever. And he always gets close and then someone steps on him. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say that someone's initials are VKM, but they might be. And it's too bad to see all these different incarnations of Ziggler. It literally goes up and down, like, and it's so high and so low at times. Like sometimes he's jobbing, other times he's winning the title with Vicky Guerrero. So like it's weird, but two guys that can really go. This was a great match. I totally agree.
I agree. I think this match probably was my favorite match of the night. I'm also a huge Kevin Owens mark, and they stole the show. They were just beating the crap out of each other. There were some stiff shots in there. Some of the way they take the moves, and Kevin Owens is always brutal in the ring. Like, I think, you both hit the nail on the head. He has that, Stone Cold type of aura, but then he also has that wrestling style of like a bruiser where he'll throw you around the ring. And since Dolph oversells more than anyone I know, it worked, and they have such great chemistry. The only thing that really sucks about this is knowing that, the next month after this pay-per-view, he's going to lose his Intercontinental title in a ladder match to Zack Ryder. But otherwise, it was a very solid match, and I thought they told a good story, and I think they should have had a blow-off match at WrestleMania. I think that would have been a better storytelling ending than what they kind of did.
Next up is a 6-man tag team match. You have Big Show, Kane, and Ryback against the Wyatt family, represented by Braun Strowman, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper. Bray Wyatt on the outside. Big Show, Kane, and Ryback actually can get the win here in about 10.5 minutes, which I kind of was a little bit surprised with. I don't quite understand that decision, but I thought it was a decent match. I mean, it wasn't the greatest match in the world, but it wasn't terrible either.
It was as close to terrible as you can get without being terrible. It wasn't a good match by any means. This match reminded me how much I hated Ryback. I just think they kind of gave him the Roman treatment before Roman had his treatment. They tried to push him too hard, and I think they shoved, he obviously has, some a good look, and he has some ability, but he's also green enough where, he's in, CM Punk goes on a tangent about having to wrestle Ryback and, how injured and beat up he got by Ryback. So, I mean, like I said, this made me remember. I'm like, oh yeah, they shoved this prick down our throats for what's felt like forever until he left. But, Kane, one of my favorites from, even back in the day, and the Big Show's the same way. I mean, they got for a guy Big Show size to be able to go, and even, he was still even bigger than he is now then. So, he's lost a lot of weight since, and he's in better shape now probably than he ever has been. But, the Wyatt family was white hot, and they let 3 guys thrown together beat them. Mm-hmm. They didn't get beat by the New Day. They didn't get beat by, like, it wasn't a team. It was just 3 guys thrown together. And I'm not saying losing to the New Day would have been better, but at least it was a 3-man team.
Yeah. Who books this? Like, seriously, what was even the purpose of this match? I think this is probably one of the matches that we went from a great match with Kevin Owens before to this. What a terrible second match. Even this should have been on the pre-show, honestly, because of the storytelling, which was lackluster. I don't understand, because like you said, they were white hot at the time. I don't know if Bray was injured. I'm trying to remember what kind of happened on this time frame, but what was the point of building up this big faction of the Wyatt family to lose to 3 thrown together people who are thrown together just because they're titans, basically, as they kept kind of talking through the match, that they were like the titans of WWE.
And to be 100% fair, calling Ryback a titan with Kane an insult to those 2 guys, honestly, because Ryback's a joke compared to those guys. I mean, though you can call Big Show and Kane titans because of what they've done and how long they've done it. Ryback was doing it for a cup of coffee at this point, and they're like, he's a titan. It's like, no, he's just a big jacked up steroid head as a hard on for it. But anyways, yeah, sorry. You said titan, and it made me go on a tangent, so just had to get that in there.
Don't worry, Tim. Your turn for a tangent's coming up.
Yeah, we need to see a little bit of red ass Tim here. We need to
get
him fired up on something.
Next up is a singles match for the Divas Championship. Charlotte's the champion, accompanied by Ric Flair. Going to get a win over Brie Bella by submission in about 12.5 minutes. Again, I think this is like we said earlier, it's the start of the women's evolution. I actually really thought this match was a good match compared to what we've been seeing with women's wrestling up until that point. It's just kind of a precursor for things to come. I thought it was real solid. And, Brie Bella looked really good in this match. This is right around the time Daniel Bryan retired and Nikki Bella had her neck surgery. So they kind of, play that up in the storyline a little bit. But again, a really solid, championship match.
And I think before we go any further, I think that a lot of people disrespect and don't give the Bellas the rightfully earned respect that they should get. They carried a division before the women's evolution. They were in that gap right before that. And these two, a lot of people don't realize these two were never wrestlers beforehand. They were models that turned into wrestlers, and they actually became pretty good wrestlers. And I don't want to die on that hill. I don't want to be that person, but I just want people to realize that for what they did in the ring and how far they came from being models to being wrestlers, they need a little bit more from the fans. I know a lot of people were talking about the Hall of Fame thing and everything, and that they didn't deserve it and all this stuff and everything and all this stuff. They do deserve it. They kind of changed that cookie cutter model into a wrestler. They kind of followed the Trish Stratus path of being a model, turning into a wrestler, but they weren't even fitness models really per se. They weren't like Trish Stratus was jacked for a woman, like when she was fitness modeling. So like, it just goes to show you that if you want something hard enough, I mean, you can. And I for everything that they've done, I think that they need to be appreciated a little bit more by some of the fans. That's just and like Tim said, this was a great match. It really was.
No, it was. I'm not a Charlotte fan, just because of the way she's booked, not because of her talent by any means. In this, I felt like watching it for the first time, knowing the storylines around it, this is when Charlotte was starting to get that John Cena type push, that Roman Reigns type down your throat push. Because this is the last match she had with the Divas title before they rightfully changed it to the women's title at WrestleMania the following month. I agree with you about the Bellas. I think they're very underrated because they were, like you said, in that gap. And we've talked about in shows before where, Trish Stratus and Lita were in that gap, and Victoria was in that gap. That just kind of peaks and valleys because Vince would like the women's division, and then he wouldn't, then he would, and then he wouldn't, and then, whatever. We've talked about it to death. But this match definitely was that because the Bellas, Paige, and AJ Lee really were that bridge, Natalya, to bring it to the women's evolution. This is where it finally started. So it was nice to see this match because it was a solid match. I think the Becky Lynch match and then this match were two examples of how good it was going to come and how good it is. And I'm glad that, women on this card got to have main event WrestleMania. I was there to see it. And, it's awesome. Like you said, Roland, you got to have the goals, and they put the goals out there. Vague goals get vague results, like I told you guys earlier. And man, did they crush it.
And this was before Charlotte got that thing on her chin chopped off too. Just want to point that out. It's comical in a way that she had that for as long as she did, and she didn't think that would affect her look. So every time I see Charlotte with it, I just stare at it. I'm like the gold member character. I'm like, mole. Like it's right on the middle of your face. But anyhow, just wanted to give you guys a laugh.
Are you cheering for the boogeyman to come out and take care of it like Jillian Hall?
Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Supposedly she had it surgically removed. Yeah, the boogeyman could have got hungry.
Next up is a singles match between AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. AJ Styles can get the win using the calf crusher in about 16 and a half minutes. I really liked the program that these guys had. They had a series of matches, and they were all really good. This is early AJ Styles in WWE. I think he just made his debut at the Royal Rumble that year. It was solid, and Chris Jericho can work with anybody. So I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, AJ, it's no secret he's one of my favorites. I remember seeing him at the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom when he was in TNA. They had a really small ring in there, and I went to it, and it was actually really cool. They had Daniels was there, AJ. I've been a fan of his since then. I mean, that was like 09, 08, somewhere in there. So ever since TNA, I've at least, known AJ and been a fan and followed his career. And to see him finally come to the WWE, and it's ironic now that, think of some of the matches we never would have seen.
Mm-hmm.
The Jericho's in AEW now. We might have seen that. He might have came from New Japan to go to AEW, and things might be different. But I'm so glad that he finally came to WWE. I'm glad that WWE had enough to put him right on the main roster and stay with him too. They didn't bury him in NXT for a year like they did Shinsuke. like Shinsuke had such a major push in NXT coming from Japan, and they put him on the main roster. And they do nothing with him. So it's nice to see that AJ got that. Yeah, I mean, these guys had great chemistry, and this was probably the very end of when Jericho could still really go. He was starting to get, I mean, he had some matches with Omega shortly after this that were really good. And then after that, he's been just okay. But I mean, he's also 52, 51, 52. He's an old guy now by wrestling standards, and he's still going. But these two, the storyline was great. This storyline lasted what felt like forever too, because it, they had the Y2 AJ for a little while, and then AJ got turned on. So I agree with Tim. This was this might have been the best wrestling match on the card.
No, exactly. From a wrestling standpoint, this was the best wrestling match on the card, and I liked the Y2 AJ feud because this leads into the Kevin Owens feud the following year. So this is Chris Jericho this is when he was going to get white hot with that list gimmick soon, and he had 3 or 4 great matches with AJ. Like they had a great match at WrestleMania 2 the following month. I'm sad that I never saw this until now, but like you said, this was one of the last few months he could go. But I think he changed his style a lot too, because when he went to New Japan, he became like the pain maker. So he changed his style more to like an MMA fighter, which is smart. So he's kind of hiding, that he can't be as quick and fluid as he used to be. But so now he's changing it more to like a heavyweight. I think that's why he probably packed on, because he still has abs. Like I love how people call Jericho fat. I literally saw an Instagram picture. He still got abs for 50 something. That's insane. How good he still looks in shape. And like you said, if AJ hadn't come to WWE, who knows, we might not have never got this match. And I was also a fan from TNA. I remember going down to Universal, and Glenn and I got lucky and got literally right on the ramp and got to watch him and Booker T go at it in a match, and right before lockdown. So also been a huge fan of him. The X Division matches he had were great. So it was awesome. This was the first big pay-per-view he had besides the Rumble debut, and it was fun to watch.
Well, and not to crap on Jericho too much, but I think he needs to stop doing the lion salt. If anybody's watching AEW right now, he's almost killed himself like 3 times with that lion salt in the last year, where he makes it like 3/4 of the way around, and if he didn't put his hands down, he's breaking his neck. So like that's the, like, you would think, like you said, he's trying to be more of a bruiser and whatever. Putting that extra weight on and being 50, the lion salt probably shouldn't be a move you use anymore, Chris. If you're listening to this, Chris, I'm looking right at the camera and I'm begging you, please don't hurt yourself with a lion salt. You probably shouldn't be doing anymore.
Did you see the shade he threw at the camera though? Like, because he botched one week and then the week after he hit it, he just kind of like looked at the camera, kind of like Jim from The Office, like.
I can still do it, but yeah. The problem is that when it's later on in a match, he's an older guy, so he's more gassed than in the beginning. So there's going to be times where he's just, his body's not going to go, and it's just I think it's funny that, like you said, everybody craps on him. I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent here, but like he's still he looks great, and he's still a believable character at 50 something. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that.
Next up is a singles match between Curtis Axel with the rest of the Social Outcasts, which are Adam.
Quick, without, hold on. Before you name them, quick, everybody on here, pause it. Don't look it up and name all these guys. Go.
Bo Dallas, Heath
Slater. You just saw the show, Mongo. You just saw the show. I'm talking about all the fans without going back to what. Name the 4 guys in this group. Go. All right, Tim, go ahead. Sorry,
all right. He's gonna get Curtis Axel gonna get a win over R-Truth. Quick match here, just about 2.5 minutes. Not much to discuss here. It did further the storyline between R-Truth and Goldust. Goldust come out and distracted R-Truth, and like caused him the win. So it did have a little bit of storyline purpose, but as far as the match goes, this was pretty much a let me up match before the main event.
Yeah, and since I cut Tim off, it was Adam Rose, Bo Dallas, Heath Slater, and Curtis Axel. Yeah, I don't. This was just a popcorn fart. There was no one cares. No one cared about the Social Outcasts. I get why they got put together, but then they really didn't do anything with them besides make them kind of a joke.
So they lived up to their name.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's all they did. They didn't, this is when they were putting guys together just to put guys together. I mean, you're going to see, the League of Nations,
another terrible faction.
Well, they're in somewhere in here. I can't remember where that Edge promo was. It might have been before this. I can't remember, but we had that segment with Edge doing the Cutting Edge Peep Show with Christian, and they had the New Day come out, and then they were talking about the the League of Nations, and I can name them better than I can name the Social Outcasts, put it that way. But this match didn't need to be on here. It could have been on the pre-show. Like Mongo said, there's been a couple of things on here that could have been on the pre-show, and this could have easily been on the pre-show. You just wasted 5 minutes of our time.
I mean, after the Becky Lynch match, pretty much only the KO match, the Charlotte match, and the AJ match were solid. So we've, already had 3 good matches and 2 duds. It's just like you guys said, they didn't order this card right at all. Especially me going in fresh, only seeing the card, not really seeing how it was laid out. I think this is probably why I didn't order it. Like maybe I think I saw the lineup and went, oh, these are the matches. Like there's not a lot of storytelling on here so far. I mean, there's good wrestling matches, but this just felt like that filler pay-per-view just to get that last buck before you buy WrestleMania. And then obviously releasing the network for $9.99, which I probably would have watched it if, had the network then. But I'm not going to pay $50 for this, lackluster card so far.
No, and that's the other thing too is, having the network changes a lot of things,
Yeah.
Since you have the network, it makes things a little easier to watch shows, especially ones that you're not sure on if you're going to like them or not. You don't feel bad because it's only $10. You're not spending, like Mongo said, $50-$60, and then you're like, wow, that sucked. I want my money back. I
know wrestling fans nowadays, if you're listening, if you didn't have to order pay-per-views, every 3 months or every month and have to pay the $56 to get some of these cards that we've had that were total letdowns, you didn't really experience some of the pains of wrestling, because that was the true pain of wrestling.
Yeah.
It's basically throwing $50 at the wall to see if it's going to stick. Like, is this going to be worth my hard-earned money? Or I'm going to date myself here. When you used to have to call MetroCast on the phone and be like, I want to order WrestleMania. They're like, what's WrestleMania?
I was on mute, but I heard that and wanted to giggle with you guys. So,
all right, we have made it to our main event, which is a triple threat match to determine the number 1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship, which is held by Triple H at this point. We have Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns is going to get the win in just under 17 minutes. I actually really enjoyed this main event. I thought it was laid out well. I thought they handled the Brock being this dominant figure. I thought they handled that well, where they put him through the announce table a couple of times and they buried him with the announce table. So I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, I thought it was a solid laid out, main event, and I thought it was a good way to close the show.
Yeah. The only things I will say about this match that I didn't like, I didn't like the winner, obviously. At this time, this is when they were full-blown shoving Roman down everybody's throats. And then I didn't like the finish only because Dean had laid out Roman with 2 chair shots before he hit Lesnar out of the ring. And then Reigns pops up, hits a spear, and it's over. It's like, you just hit him with the chair twice. What the hell? Like, you speared him 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
Like,
that was
the timing terrible. Of it. He should have hit Roman right away and then laid into Brock for like a full minute, down, out of the ring, and then got the spear, because the timing of it felt like they made the chair mean nothing. But it knocked Brock out of the ring, but Roman just got up and speared a guy after getting 2 chair shots to the back less than 30 seconds ago.
That's exactly it. This is why I remember why I didn't care for the Roman Reigns push. Again, not the athlete, not the performer, the push they had. Because right now, heel Roman is probably the best thing for Roman's character ever. This is probably, I cheer for Roman now because he's the I like Roman now. His push is finally where it should be, where he's the heel, he's the dick. Like you said, this was like the Superman version. Like, we had just got done seeing this with Cena. Now they're doing it with Roman. It's that Superman aspect of, oh, I took 2 chair shots, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, spear. Like, It was like 3 seconds he was on the ground, and it bothered me more than it should have. I'm watching this match, I'm like, really, that's the finish. You just had Dean Ambrose smash him with a chair in the back, which is supposed to be devastating. It's supposed to be, almost take you out of commission. But then he's going to get up and spear you and the match is over? What?
Yeah, it like I said, it took Brock out, but it didn't take Roman out. Weird. Hey, Tim, how would Jim Cornette say he's a heel?
He's a heel!
I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, so it's just it could have, like I said, the match itself was actually pretty good. I like the storyline behind it. I like how the match was laid out. I like how they ganged up. I like at one point where Roman and Dean were fighting in the ring and they see Brock getting up and Dean's like tapping on him, like, hey, he's up. Let's go back. And they put him through the second table. Storyline was great. I didn't really want to see Roman win because they're shoving Roman down your thing. And Triple H the year before won the title at the Rumble, or not the year before, but to get the title, he won it at the Rumble off Roman. Roman had to defend the title in the Rumble. Right. So you're already telling the story of Roman now winning to go face him. So all you did was make that pay-per-view mean nothing. The match could have been so good. It meant nothing because you need to have a different winner or people are going to know what's going to happen. Like, that's the worst part, is that it was predictable because, well, Triple H screwed Roman at the Rumble. Now he's in a triple threat match to go to WrestleMania to face Triple H. I wonder what's going to happen.
I was going to say, Stevie Wonder saw this finish coming.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, like you said, so predictable. Triple H, picking up the strap at the Royal Rumble, eliminating, getting the title. And then I think, wasn't Dean Ambrose eliminated by Roman in the Rumble at one point, or that's the reason why the storyline was built, because of the whole Rumble situation. So you already had the pre-built-in storyline, and then you're just going to have Roman Reigns basically get his walk through to WrestleMania to go fight Triple H. It should have been someone else fighting Triple H at WrestleMania, and then Roman having to go to Backlash and try to get his title back in a triple threat. That's, I think, the storytelling would have made more sense to do the triple threat at Backlash after Mania to show that he has to conquer more odds versus, no pun intended, Fastlane to the main event of Mania is what this felt like.
Well, and they were trying to push Roman even further because what happened at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So it's predictable, and that's the unfortunate thing, especially now too. I've noticed a lot of the WWE stuff, and we're gonna get into the preview for Elimination Chamber. A lot of the stuff they do is so damn predictable, and I'm now shocked when I'm not right.
Mm-hmm.
Before I used to be like, man, I hope I'm right. I hope this happens. Now I'm like, you can almost cue this person's music. They're gonna come out and say something, or cue this run in or whatever, and it's sad, and I don't know if that's with age, you've seen it now, or if it's just they repeat stuff so much that we're just used to it.
Because Vince thinks every wrestling fan, has the memory of a goldfish. That's really what it boils down to. I remember even back in the 2000s, they had this weird pinfall finish where two people were pinned and they had a main event at SummerSlam. Like, oh, that's cool. And then I remember 3 years later, like SummerSlam 2003, they did it again. I'm like, you guys just literally did this exact same setup to SummerSlam. So it's like you said, they're just doing the same stuff they always do. And, getting into Elimination Chamber, I'm sure we're going to be able to probably hit some things on nail on the head because they're predictable, but let's hope we're swerved.
Well, and this is the same setup where this is the pay-per-view. Elimination Chamber is what Fastlane was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So this pay-per-view we're going to talk about here in a minute, prediction-wise, is leading up to the storylines at Mania. What surprises are there going to be? It doesn't seem like very many. And that's what came out of this pay-per-view, is that nothing was really a surprise.
So that is our rundown of Fastlane 2016. And like we've been mentioning, we're going to switch over now and discuss Elimination Chamber 2021. All right, so there are 5 total matches on the Elimination Chamber card that are announced so far. We'll talk about the tag team match for the Women's Tag Team Championship first. You have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler as the champions, taking on Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. I think I'm going to go with the title.
What? Mongo was like, we don't have to talk about it. But...
Yeah. I broke Tim.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair here. I think it's going to set up a match between Nia Jax and Shayna at WrestleMania, and it's going to further the feud going into WrestleMania between Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. So I think it makes sense anyways to me that Sasha and Bianca would win the titles here, but you never know what WWE is going to do.
Yeah, it's tough because I obviously I think what they're trying to do by having Reginald involved, the plan that Carmella has is if Bianca and Sasha are tag partners, they won't want to face each other at WrestleMania. So Carmella thinks that if they can be champions, that she'll have a shot at the SmackDown title. So I'm thinking that's kind of the seeds they're trying to plant with Reginald I think it's a plan that way too. I think because she said something about you'll do the right thing or whatever last night on SmackDown. They just put the belts back on Nia and Shayna, so I hope they don't. I hope that they keep the belts on Nia and Shayna only because I want to see dissension between Sasha and Bianca to lead to the match at WrestleMania. So I'm gonna pick the champions to retain only because I hate when they play title roulette and they bounce titles back and forth. So.
I mean, this storyline we can see from a mile away. I mean, we've been calling this for at least 5 episodes now that Nia and Shayna, are going to split up and fight each other. Asuka and Charlotte are going to split up and fight each other. Look, now they're putting Sasha and Bianca, who's the obvious match going to Mania. It's, the Vince style booking 101. It's this match isn't going to end clean. It's going to be a disqualification. I don't think it's going to end with Sasha and Bianca going over clean, and I don't think Nia and Shayna are going to go over clean. I think it's going to be like a hokey finish because this just doesn't seem like there's really any storytelling in this match. And like you said, Roland, they can't play roulette with a title, so they're going to do some of those weird things where someone uses a weapon or Nia pushes someone through a table, gets pushed through a table, or Lana's going to interfere. Something ridiculous is going to happen. This match is going to be over in a hokey DQ finish.
Nia's going to injure her hole.
I wish you would shut her hole. Oh,
hey. Do you see on SmackDown? She almost tripped getting in the ring. She took a tag from Shayna and about friggin' ate shit getting in the ring. She caught her foot on the rope, and she just looked back at the rope like it was the rope's fault. You gotta lift your foot high enough to get in.
So Nia's deflecting on things that are her fault. That aren't. Oh, surprising.
Yeah, right.
Par for the course.
Yep. Next up, we'll talk about the Elimination Chamber match for the right to face Roman Reigns later in the night for the Universal Championship. You have Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, King Corbin, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and Daniel Bryan. I'm really hoping that they go with Cesaro here because they have been pushing him lately with a couple of big wins. But it's WWE, so you don't know if they're going to kill the push as soon as it happens or not. But I'm just going to go wishful thinking here. I'm going to pick Cesaro for this one.
Yeah, I could see them going one of 3 ways. I could see the Cesaro thing, like Tim said. I could see the Kevin Owens storyline furthering. I could also see the Daniel Bryan storyline continuing because before they got to Kevin Owens, Roman and Daniel Bryan had their little thing for a little while. So those are my 3 that I have to pick from. And as much as I want to see Cesaro get his push too, and as much as I want to see Daniel Bryan, I feel like for some reason they're going to let Kevin Owens overcome only to lose to Roman again. So that way after WrestleMania, they can resume a feud because I think Edge is going to pick Roman. I think that's the way they're going. Maybe they'll surprise us and they're only doing this to swerve us, which would be great. If that's what happens, that'd be awesome because I hate how predictable it's become. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pick that Kevin Owens wins. And then there's another, thing that Kevin Owens can say, well, they screwed me again. This is the 3rd match I've had and they've had, hokey finishes pretty much every time. So that's where I'm going.
So I'm going to agree with Tim, which is weird. So the 2 major Kevin Owens marks are both petting against Kevin Owens. I think it's going to be Cesaro as well. I think it's they're doing like a fan satisfaction match. I think they're going to do this just almost to like shut the fans up to give him his title match, which is kind of a shame because he deserves a better push, but I think it will be him. But it'll be good to have on his resume, Elimination Chamber winner. And either way, whoever faces Roman, I agree with you. I think it's going to be, a bamboozle type of finish, setting up the Edge versus Roman Reigns, spear versus spear, because that they want to use that tagline more than anything. WrestleMania. I've already seen a picture that supposedly shows the leaked WrestleMania poster with it on it. But then again, it's 2021 and the internet and Photoshop is a thing. But I agree with both of you. I think Cesaro's winning, and I think Roman Reigns is going to have some sort of like hokey finish and go to WrestleMania to fight Edge.
Yeah, I agree. I think Roman Reigns is going to, whoever the winner is of the Chamber, I think Roman Reigns is going to go over because it's kind of, like you said, kind of predictable at this point. Next up is supposedly a triple threat match for the U.S. Championship match between Bobby Lashley, Keith Lee, and Riddle. There is some speculation that Keith Lee might be pulled from this match, whether it be injury. His fiance recently had COVID, so it might be something along those lines. So Keith Lee's status kind of up in the air at this point. I would like, if he does compete, I would like to have him put the belt on. But I just have a gut feeling that Bobby Lashley's going to retain here.
Yeah, I think they're still holding out hope that Bobby Lashley will get that match with Brock Lesnar. So I think that they are going to push him to the moon and not have him lose to anybody. And if he loses, it won't be clean. So, I mean, I guess in a triple threat match, technically you could have, Keith Lee pin Riddle. So not knowing if it's still going to be a triple threat match or not, it's tough. It's hard to make a prediction, but I think that Lashley's going to retain also. And if it is a triple threat match, the only way he's going to lose the belt is if he's not involved in the decision.
Mm-hmm.
So before we knew about Keith Lee potentially being out, and again, it's the dirt. We're getting this from the dirt sheet, so he could show up tomorrow night. And we're both wrong. All three of us are wrong on that. Or the dirt sheets could be right. He's out, and they do some weird storyline to write him out. So it's hard to write out. So I'm gonna give two scenarios. If Keith Lee's in, I think Riddle goes over Keith Lee. Because like Roland said, they're not going to let Lashley eat the pin because they want him to fight Lesnar. I want him to fight Lesnar because I feel like they've been teasing that since they brought Bobby Lashley back in 2017.
He wants it too. I mean, Lashley said that's one of the things he wants when he came back, and they haven't given it to him yet. So if I were Lashley, I'd be bullshit too.
Yeah. So I think Riddle goes over Keith Lee just because for some reason Vince loves Riddle and just he wants to give him the strap. If Keith Lee's not out, it's going to be some sort of disqualification, the Hurt Business getting involved, and it'll be over in like 5-10 minutes.
So the last match that we have to discuss is the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship. You have Drew McIntyre, obviously the champion, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Kofi Kingston. I think it's kind of predictable here that McIntyre is going to retain. The only caveat, though, that I have to this is, are they going to do something with The Miz? Is kind of what I'm wondering. Is The Miz going to cash in and maybe fail? Or is he going to cash in and be successful and they're going to set up maybe a match between McIntyre and Miz and somehow get Sheamus involved in the match at WrestleMania as well? So that's the only caveat. But for now, I'm going to stick with McIntyre retaining. Speaking
of The Miz, wouldn't it be something if he cashes in during the Roman match?
Yeah.
They could do that too. But there's two scenarios I see here. I see McIntyre retaining, or I see Sheamus somehow winning to set up the match with McIntyre at WrestleMania. They do title roulette a little bit too much, so I could see them doing that, having Sheamus get the win because he is coming in last. They've been pushing him as the feud with McIntyre. So either McIntyre retains or Sheamus wins. Either way, they're going to face each other at the elimination or at WrestleMania, coming out of the Elimination Chamber. Like you said, I don't know if The Miz is going to get involved. We'll have to wait and see. But those are my two scenarios. If I had to pick one way, I think they would go with it. I think to make a match at WrestleMania means something. You have to have Sheamus win. You can't have McIntyre just beat guys over and over and over again to then have a match at WrestleMania. Not, I'm going to face Sheamus in a match at WrestleMania. So for some reason, I'm probably dead wrong. I'm just going to pick Sheamus on this one only because for me, for booking purposes, you have to have McIntyre fighting for the title for it to mean something at Mania, because if he beats 5 other guys here, who cares who he's going to beat at WrestleMania, whether it's Sheamus or anybody.
I agree with you. So what you say makes sense. In a perfect world, they would give Sheamus a strap to fight McIntyre, but this is WWE. Like Tim said, it's not a perfect world. I think Drew McIntyre goes over, and I think it comes down to, it's going to be cliche. It's going to come down to McIntyre versus Sheamus in the match, because I think they're going to set up the WrestleMania match that way, because WWE's not going to, they want to give him his moment, and I feel like if they want to give him his moment, do it the way you said, Roland. Give the strap to Sheamus so he can win it back at WrestleMania. But then again, it is title roulette because he lost it to Randy Orton, which I think the Fiend's coming back tonight, and I think taking out Orton, and that's how he gets written out of the chamber. And I think it sets up their WrestleMania into Backlash.
That's match. A great point about the Fiend too with Randy. Yeah, something will happen there. Who knows if he gets into the chamber somehow, and that's how, maybe the Miz inserts himself back in the match when there's only 2 guys left. There's so many. That's one thing I will say is that it's predictable, but there's also a few monkey wrenches they could throw in, including the Miz, including how they want. But yeah, I think Drew McIntyre chasing the title is better than Drew McIntyre holding the title.
Yep.
I think that chase for him to get it is a better McIntyre. So I hope they do that. They probably won't. You're probably right, Mongo and Tim, that McIntyre is going to retain, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So that's our rundown of Elimination Chamber. We'll recap it next week to see how right or wrong we were. Speaking of next week, we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to cover NXT for the very first time on this podcast. We're doing NXT Arrival from 2014, which was the first show ever produced on the network. I'm looking forward to that. You have Neville and Bo Dallas on the show. Cesaro's on the show. So I'm really looking forward to watching that one. Be first time for me seeing that. So looking forward to breaking down that for you guys next week.
Yeah, no, I think it's fitting too, where this is the first show that's on the network that's produced by the WWE for the network too. So that makes it mean even more. So it should be a cool show to go back and watch. It's not a long show because it is, it's almost like when they did the In Your House shows back in the day. They made them like a smaller show, less time wise. So I look forward to it too. I've seen highlights of certain matches, but I haven't seen these matches all the way from the beginning. So
after they got rid of their weird game show shtick on NXT, I started watching it. And this was when I really was invested into it. So I'm excited for you guys to see this because I have seen it a few times. I love watching all the takeovers. I love NXT. I hate that it gets nowadays the developmental shtick because it's really not. It's really a third brand whether they want to commit it. But this is back when it was developmental because, like Tim said earlier, you're going to have Pac versus Bo Dallas, and then you have Cesaro. And not to give anything away, but there's great matches on the card because it shows what the future was, because that was their tagline is "We are the future." And they were, because half people we just talked about on our show today came from NXT, went through NXT, or were in the developmental system that became NXT. And it's a great show, and I'm excited to talk about it next week.
how many times do you say NXT in one sentence?
I don't know. I think I said it about 9 times that time, or 10.
Yeah, 10. to be fair, I will say that the only thing I can't even say it. Developmental about NXT is they learn the WWE way. Like you said, it's not even developmental anymore. It is a third brand, but that's how they learn the WWE way, how they produce shows, where the cameras are, so other than that, it is a third brand. Some of the wrestling is actually better, and spoiler, Triple H and Shawn Michaels have a lot to do with that, and it's not Vince. So that's why some of those matches are way better. There's still some stupid sticky stuff in there. Say that 5 times fast. But for the most part, NXT has made their niche as being more wrestling, less hokey bull crap, and it makes for better TV.
Yeah, looking forward to breaking that down for you guys next week. NXT Arrival 2014. Hope you enjoyed today's show. We'll be back next Saturday at 5. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Pulis.
And I'm Mongo, NXT.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
I hope you're all having a nice day.